Baron Taylor celebrated the third birthday of his firstborn and heir on an unprecedented scale, and only his daughter, Dame Courtney Saraline, seemed preoccupied with the entire celebration. But who paid attention to this? Crowds of guests, a majestic moment when a boy mounted a thoroughbred horse to the enthusiastic cries of the people, a feast in a clearing in front of the castle, delicacies for the townspeople on the streets of the city, whole pork carcasses rotating on spits, pies, and barrels of wine. And all this was accompanied by performances by buffoons dancing in the central square, copper and sometimes silver coins falling to the ground, a grand ball, and magnificent fireworks in the baronial garden. Courtney knew the next entertainment number would be her own engagement party. Tomorrow, the Baron will announce his engagement to Count Edmund Bruntville. She didn't like the idea of marrying this older gentleman. The thought that this was worse than all the previous candidates depressed her. All that was left was to refuse. If only everything were that simple. The father wasted no time in persuasion. His words were clear as glass. "If you refuse the engagement, my dear, I will order your favorite, poor fox Leah, to be drowned." "With you, of course. Even patience has its limits, my dear, you understand?" "Yes," she tried to object, beg, express her disagreement. But everything was very clear. It was also clear that there was always a way out. Yesterday, Countess Eliza, wife of Baron Taylor, said in front of everyone, "We have all prayed for you, Courtney. I am sure that tomorrow will be a happy day for you if you realize how lucky you are to become the wife of Earl Edmund." "I'm counting on your enlightenment too, Eliza," confirmed Courtney. "And light enlightenment is available to everyone, isn't it?" This displeased the Countess and cooled the guests' resolve, but Courtney was in her own home and did not want to be surrounded by other people's feelings. Although many people were deeply impressed by her, and just recently, Courtney told about this to 8 celebrants, some of whom had traveled far beyond their lands, which only fueled her feelings of arrogance and rebellion. While Courtney was reading on the balcony, Eliza approached her. "What are you doing? What a busy day. What a joy that my son is now a 3-year-old boy. Over time, you become less and less understanding." "I will understand you and share your feelings, Elizo. Lang is my nephew and I love him. This is not the same. It seems that you understand in a motherly way when you become a mother yourself." Courtney gave the Countess a chance, gave her the books, and then gave up. "I think your future boyfriend is right for you." Thus, Father more than once accepted Duke Edmund as our Georgian mother. "He is such a strong and sweet thinker." "Perhaps," Courtney said, "but I think I have yet to experience all the joys and difficulties of married life." She, of course, mocked and hinted not so much at frankness and affection, but at something bolder. But for Courtney, external decency and obscurity were considered serious requirements. After all, according to the Eliza, who has spoken out on this topic more than once, an unmarried girl should remain naive until she gets married. If, of course, this happens at all. But Courtney was attentive enough to many aspects of life, no matter what anyone thought about her innocence. "Who is stopping you from providing all the joys and hardships of lack?" Eliza continued to pester. "All the ladies are looking at Count Edmund." "Are all the ladies looking at Edmund even now? It is touching. Do you think that soon after the wedding I will be threatened by a widow's patron and the children will set my path?" "Courtney, you shouldn't talk like that. Besides, remember your age," Eliza said indignantly. 23, so what? You're not 17 anymore, Courtney. It's still a long way to reach 50. Eliza always complained about this, because she herself was married at 17, and now 6 years later, she met an old maid in Courtney, most likely because Courtney refused to follow the example of the smart Eliza. "This idea earlier is important to you," Eliza remarked reasonably. "Now accept what you have." "Even if I accept my share, that doesn't mean I have to lock myself in a monastery," said Courtney, more than tired of this game. "And please, leave me alone. I'll go to Nartel, and I won't have to worry about my well-being anymore. Father understands this and agrees." Nartel was a small estate near the sea, given to Courtney on her 16th birthday as part of her mother's dowry. Eliza grinned in response. "You're behaving like an unreasonable child," she said. "You should have already realized that parental tolerance cannot be sold forever, and already leaving." Eliza added that her father's patience had run out, and that tomorrow, all their family plans for Courtney would begin to come true. This was nothing more than a warning. Countess Buela Klaikovna, wife of Count Lengar, began to feel more and more that her sister-in-law, Courtney, was simply a misfortune in human form, a constant concern for the family, and an unpredictable element in their carefully planned life. Just at this moment, events took an unexpected turn. On that quiet evening, when the shadows at the foot of the towers grew longer and the castle absorbed the last of the daylight, he intruded into their lives. Noah, a wandering bard with a mysterious past and blue eyes in which a whole sea of stories languished. Despite the Count's excessive caution and mistrust, the bard quickly gained popularity among the castle population, thanks to his silverwood charm and unsurpassed skill as a storyteller. And Courtney, with a penchant for solitude and books, needed more than anyone else the new stories and dreams that Noah seemed capable of offering. When the day came to announce her engagement to Duke Edmund, whose age would allow him to be her father, Courtney already knew that she would never become his wife. While Courtney was in mournful thoughts after meeting Noah in the castle garden, they hatched a plan together. The plan is so daring and incredible that it could become the plot for one of the bard's adventure stories. Noah suggested escape, an escape that was supposed to take place the night before the engagement day. All this only increased Courtney's desire to speed up his escape plan, in which Noah believed so much. It was this thought that helped her remain calm in the face of the upcoming challenge. Courtney stood looking after Eliza, whose silhouette disappeared into the corridors of the castle. Her stepmother's words rang in her ears like a harbinger of a storm that would bring inevitable change. But now that paths had been paved and souls had been decided, Courtney felt ready for the challenge ahead. She tried to push aside thoughts of the upcoming engagement, of the conspiracies and intrigues of the family, holding tightly in her heart the image of Noah and her future free days away from the castle. That night, without further ado, Courtney and Noah took the decisive step towards freedom. They eluded the guards, using the darkness as an ally. Fox Leah, now safe in the forest, was a sign of gratitude, a sign that even the most unusual and risky plans can succeed. But their venture was only half as successful. Despite their best efforts, the escape plan soon unraveled. News of the fugitives spread throughout the county, and Courtney's father, in anger, launched a manhunt. Eliza was right. Parental tolerance had run out, and now Courtney and Noah were outlaws. For several weeks, they went into hiding, driven by love and the promise of freedom. The days were filled with disguises and disguises. They avoided villages and travel castles, moving from forest to forest, from one hut to another. They learned to live on the go, remaining a well-coordinated couple even on the run, driven by dreams of a house by the sea, of days filled with Noah's music and warm nights by the fire. As more time passed, the pursuit became less frequent. When their pursuers were no longer visible over the horizon, they finally dared to stop in a secluded place and build themselves a shelter. It was a modest but strong house, where every beam and stone was laid by their hands, and every morning began with their common dream. One evening, after another day filled with work and each other's warmth, Courtney and Noah sat on the threshold of their house, looking at the golden reflections of the setting sun. The sea rolled waves onto the shore, and the rhythm of the surf served as the background to Noah's words. "We created our own world here, Courtney," he said, taking her hand. "A world that is filled with our love and freedom of choice," she answered, leaning her head on his shoulder. "Freedom is what we fought for, but the real magic is in the future," Noah said, looking into Courtney's eyes with a light of hope. Courtney smiled back at him, knowing that with each new day, they would write their story together, day after day, built on straight backs and confident steps towards their common dreams. And then Courtney realized she may not have inherited the castle or the royal title, but she had acquired something much more valuable: the freedom to choose and love, the freedom to be with the one she truly loved. The fight for this freedom was worth the fears and doubts, and the path was still long and difficult. But ahead, far from Lengar, far from their former life, they began to weave their own life pattern, filled with laughter, singing, and the whisper of waves near their new home nearby sea.